Max Burns is a Democratic strategist. He joins us tonight. So, Max, there was I think the conclusive study on this was just done in February out of Harvard on the question of voter ID laws, which are by far the most controversial, right? Republicans say we need them because they obviously are a hedge against voter fraud, and Democrats say they're racist. So here's what the study found. We find that strict voter ID laws have no significant effect on registration or turnout. They do not decrease the participation of ethnic minorities relative to whites. And it goes on like that, but it's conclusive. Why is no one acknowledging the facts of this? Why are they still calling it Jim Crow?
Well, I'll note you cite one study. And Joe Biden is only wrong in the sense that thinking that Jim Crow has ever actually gone away. I mean, African-American voters, Latino voters have experienced having their votes invalidated for decades. I mean, look at North Carolina, where they just throw their votes directly in the trash. There's nothing more suppressive than that.
Wait, okay, there's no, okay, first of all, there's no evidence that anyone's votes were thrown away in this generation in North Carolina, in the specific case you're talking about, on the basis of race. That's a lie, as you know. Second, you blew right past the fact.
They had to redo the entire election, Tucker.
Okay, but there is no evidence, just to restate, as someone who's familiar with exactly what you're talking about, that anyone's votes were discarded because of the color of their skin. That's just not true. And to say otherwise suggests you don't know what you're talking about, or you're misleading our audience. I just wanted you to respond to the study that I cited, which is not written by right-wingers, that voter ID laws have no effect on voter turnout. They're not just inherently discriminatory. Do you have another study that shows the opposite, that's more current than this one or bigger?
Here's the problem, and I'm glad you mentioned the turnout question, because here's the problem with that turnout point in the study. Is that the turnout doesn't show you how hard people had to fight to get there. If a black voter has to work twice as hard to get to a polling place to register to vote at all, that is not an equitable similarity to a white person's vote.
No, but voter ID laws are separate and distinct from the question of where polling places are. I think I'm too literal for this moment because nobody tells the truth. But everyone just lies for political effect, and here I am, like, arguing a point of fact, I guess. Maybe I should just give up and just become a demagogue like everyone else. I'm talking about voter ID laws. Voter ID laws do not, according to the study, the definitive study on it, don't suppress African-American voting, turnout. They don't make it harder. Correct. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about.
Correct. And the fact that African-Americans are turning out in those numbers, even with the hurdles they have to face, the difficulty in getting a license, the difficulty in even finding a polling place that hasn't been shut down.
How patronizing can you be? Why is it harder for black people to get a driver's license? What are you talking about?
There are only 11 states in the country that require you to have a license to vote. And oddly enough, those states that are largely affecting Democratic-leaning voters, African-American voters, also make it expensive to get a license. It's expensive to get copies of your own documentation.
Obviously, you don't care about whether what you say is true or not. But let me just ask you two quick questions. Is it racist to require an ID to fly in an airplane? Or to stay in a hotel, or to cash a check, or to get welfare benefits, or to do anything? Is that
none of which are your fundamental constitutional right to vote?
What about to have a job? You can't have a job without a government ID.
Would you agree that you have a fundamental constitutional right to vote, Tucker?
We have a fundamental constitutional right to a lot of things, to own a gun, okay? And to vote, to have a job, and all of these things require an ID, but none of that's racist, only voting?
And in fact, Tucker, you know buying a gun doesn't require an ID. First off, and let's point out the fact that African-American
I doubt you've bought many guns. I have. Yes, it does. I just bought one. I can't deal with this.
Tucker,
Max, thank you.
I come from Virginia. I bought a gun without a driver's license in cash
at
a gun show.
Not in a gun store, you didn't. No, maybe from a buddy, but not in a gun show or a gun store.
At the largest gun show in Virginia. So yes,
not
you
anymore.
Do not need a license
I was
to
there 2 weeks ago.
exercise your rights.
All right, Max, this is. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.